Hello, everybody. Welcome to Facet Nation, a Gemmology podcast. I'm Lucinda.
And I am Simon.
And today we're going to do something a little bit different because it is January, which means it is exam season. We're back in the full swing of things. And for everybody whose exams are coming up, or if you're keeping one eye on June, feeling anxious, or if the exams are a big part of why you maybe haven't signed up to an official course yet, we are here to talk to you a little bit about our experience so that you feel safe and warm and comforted, knowing what to expect going into the exams.
Yeah, it's probably the most stressful part of the whole process, really. Sitting exams is not good at the best of times, is it? But when you've got so much information that you have to try and learn, the thought of actually trying to recall all of that in a stressful environment is pretty scary. And the anxiety of that is probably what got me through the whole thing. Because, this sort of sword of Damocles hanging over your head is kind of what motivates you to sit down and do the revision properly and sort of take it seriously, I guess.
Yeah. And I've definitely, I don't come from a gemmology background. When I signed up for Gem A, it was as a hobbyist. So the qualification meant nothing to me at that stage. And I actually thought about not sitting my exams because it just felt like this really stressful, scary thing that I had no idea what it was going to be like. I knew the experience was going to be horrific, or I thought it would be, and the qualification didn't really matter that much to me. That obviously changed by the time I got to my diploma, and I actually enjoyed the process of taking the exam. So I hope that us talking about kind of how we prepared and what the day ended up being like will make you guys feel a little better going into them. And of course, Gem A, which I had no idea about, is actually famous for its exams. They are famously difficult. So Simon, as someone who's been in the industry for a long time, what sets Gem A's exams apart from others in the industry?
Well, I suppose that's a little bit hard to answer because I've not sat any of the others and I don't intend to after the stress.
We're done now.
The stress of doing this one. But what I think is the important thing to note is that it's completely you and your own work, and you kind of have to have that knowledge cemented in order to answer the questions, because a lot of other exams, as far as I'm aware, have a sort of multiple choice element. So you've probably got an answer there in front of you. Maybe it's an option out of 4 perhaps, and one of those might trigger a memory. Whereas in the GMA exams, all 3 of them, the Diamond one, the Foundation and the Diploma, it's literally a question and then you're expected to answer at length with displayed knowledge in order to gain all of the marks. And that, I suppose, is what makes it a little bit different to all the others. Something else I just wanted to say is this episode might not necessarily appeal to all of you out there, so it's fine if you give this one a miss. But just to reiterate, the reason we started this is because we wanted another avenue of study when we were studying and revising and things, and this is kind of why we started it, to help people get through the exam and sort of have some sort of reinforcement that maybe was a bit more fun and a bit more accessible, so you could listen to it while you're sort of wandering about and things like that. So that's the reason we're doing this. And I hope some of you out there that are studying, or like Lucinda said, thinking of studying, will find this useful.
Definitely. And the Gem A exam is also a very unique beast in that it's in quarter marks. So there's no kind of guideline as to how knowing when you've said enough. It's really just saying everything that you know about a topic and hoping that you rack up the marks. And so, as Simon says, like, that deep understanding from lots of different angles is super important, and also why we decided to start doing this podcast, because you never know enough, really.
Yeah. So
and that's one of the joys of it.
Well, so some of the questions, so all of the questions have like a mark next to them. And you're supposed to sort of guess whether they're going to be judged on quarter marks, half marks, or just single marks. And that is something to think about. And I guess when you go on to the Moodle that you have, so that's like the internal sort of revision database that GEMA provides for you, and it has previous questions, and then it has examiner's notes on the questions. I would say, if you're thinking of your exams coming up kind of next week or in June, to go through and read some of those, because that will give you an indication based on this question, and the examiner's notes will tell you kind of the detail they were expecting you to go in, and you can kind of form a judgment on what is going to be required for certain questions and sort of how they fit into the section, if you like, because it's kind of broken down into sections, isn't it? And that each section has kind of 20 marks allocated to it, and you need to try and pick up a proportion of them from each question, all in the time frame that you have without overheating and passing out.
And I'm sure that you guys are familiar with the way that the exams are set up. If you're in GEMA, you've probably been taking practice exams. You're probably sick of them by now. But for everybody who doesn't know the exam, we're talking specifically about the diploma exam today. We can talk about the foundation exam maybe in June. It's a little bit different. I look back on those days with misty eyes. I so loved taking that exam. It ended up being really quite fun, but stressful. The diploma exam, a little bit of a different beast. It's over 2 days, so it is a quite physically exhausting exam. Day one is theory, and that is 2 3-hour exams, is it?
Wasn't the second one? No, you're right. Yeah, the first one was the theory. Yeah, so I think ours was on a Tuesday for the theory. So what are they, 2.5 hours each?
Yep, and you've got 2 of those. Yeah. And then you have a day off, and then you have your practical, which is 3 hours of sheer panic and hell, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
So very physically demanding, but definitely doable. And so today we're going to talk a little bit just about how we prepped for the exam kind of from the start, and then a month out and a week out, what we would suggest doing differently, and then how our days went. So our experience of taking the exam. Everybody's got different strategies, of course. Everybody's got different approaches. When did the exam start to feel real for you, Simon? Was it like you signed up for the course and knew right away you had to start prepping, or did you kind of ease into it?
No, I was pretty much sort of trying to get in exam mode from day one. I was revising more or less an hour a day on the train. Like, without my train journey, I don't know how I'd have managed to fit the time in to do all the revision that I did. Sort of, I have a train journey of like 45 minutes each way, and most of that time, almost every day, was spent kind of rewriting the course notes. That was my method. I'd go through the course notes and I'd go through any wider reading that I might have done and more or less rewrite the course notes by hand into a book, incorporating any other information that I might have gathered elsewhere. So I had like the course notes in my bag, or pages of the course notes that I'd pulled out and take with me on some days. And then I'd have other books that I'd read, like the D.D. Cunningham, Robert Webster, Gemmology. And yeah, I would read them and sort of take pieces from each one and expand upon stuff. I was listening to a lot of podcasts about science, a lot of podcasts about geology. Sometimes I'd sort of listen through to them and pause them at points when I thought it was a useful bit of information, write that in the book and incorporate it into my notes. So I kind of built my own set of course notes, if you like, in a A4 pad, which is literally filled from front to back.
Awesome. And were you more worried about the practical or the theory?
So I guess to begin with, I was probably a bit more worried about the practical, because I guess you can always, if you put enough effort in, you can remember and learn something, I suppose is my take on that. And the practical is more a skill set that you have to learn, and things you need to be able to identify. But by the time we actually came to the exam, I had practiced the practical so much, and sort of with relative success, that I was feeling pretty good about that, I'll be honest. So yeah, how about you?
I had scored so well. I don't have a gemmology background, so until I started the foundation, I had never handled a stone before in my life, and I was really worried about the practical and the foundation exam. In the diploma, so I took a totally opposite approach to Simon. I was not serious about the exam or the coursework or anything really, aside from making sure that on our, the mini quizzes, I made sure that I got as close to 100% as I could, because I knew that if I had a problem on the day, that would tip me over the edge into a pass. And I had scored so highly on the foundation exam that I knew I could catch up if I needed to. So I did not do any prep for the exam until about a month out. I was focused on shifting careers. So I had changed my career entirely in that time, which was probably pretty fucking stupid. I ran into Simon on Hatton Garden like 2 months or something into my new job, and I was like, I'm so overwhelmed. But it was all fine in the end. But what I made sure that I did was I kept up with the reading, I kept up with the mini quizzes, and I just kind of focused on getting through that week and then resting, because there was so much going on that I knew I could cement kind of the final parts in the last month, but I didn't want to be missing huge chunks of information. So I just
I,
really focused on enjoying the course and learning what I could, and then kind of exam prep was its own thing for me.
I suppose there's two types of sort of learning. So when I was at acting school, I guess I suppose if you work on a soap opera, for example, you're kind of learning your lines the night before, and they're kind of their lines, right? And they're just something that you've memorized. And then by the time you've sort of done them, I'm not sort of.
Are you saying that I don't remember the causes of color in a diamond? Because I
No,
do.
I'm not discrediting sort of soap opera actors. I'm just saying that because of the volume of work that they have, they need to have it in a sort of short-term memory type thing, and it's a sort of means to doing what you need to. But then there's another school of thought where I suppose you have a kind of deeper learning and a deeper understanding, and it kind of sticks a bit more. The GEMA exam is an exam, and it's something that you need to pass. Your knowledge isn't going to be based on that for your entire future. You are always going to learn things, and you're always going to cement your learning after that, because it can only cover so much. You can only approach it in a particular way because it has a curriculum. It's like going to school. Like, you don't really learn things that you need to know for life and work at school. You learn how to pass exams, I think.
Great. I also would say, gemmology is something that we do because we love it. And so when you love something, it is, you think about it a lot. And so I was thinking about gemmology a lot, thinking about stones a lot, seeing how they worked in the real world in my day job for the first time, which was really cool. And so all of the kind of, the details of, and localities and all of that, I would not discount if you do work in the industry. It was actually a huge advantage for me to finally be in the industry, because you're reinforcing that knowledge every day through the work that you're doing. Whereas when I was a copywriter, I had to be much more focused on, I'm setting some time aside to do this thing that is basically my hobby, and it's learning on top of my daily life. Whereas once you're in the industry, it's all incorporated in a really nice way.
Yeah, totally. So real world application is effectively what you're doing the course for. You're not doing it to just get some letters after your name and sort of be like, oh, okay, well, that's that, and I'll move on to something else. It's the first step into your life as a gemmologist, I would say, and then your knowledge is going to expand from there, your experience of different things, because a lot of the stones that you see in the GEMA exam are going to have very specifically identifiable features so that you can give an answer. Whereas in the real world, you might come across a stone that isn't quite so cut and dry, and it might not be so black and white. You might not be able to be like, it might throw something weird up. But the GEMA stones, when you're doing the test, are going to have those things that you can,
they've been chosen,
that you can
for
cling
a
on
reason.
to. Yeah, literally. And life doesn't really work like that. So you have to, consider that in your general life. And that's when you learn more, and that's when you experience different things. And obviously gemmology is changing all the time too. And different stones are popping up that, like, the course notes are however many years old, and they can't keep up with everything. I know they're redoing them now. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that looks when they come out.
For sure. So Simon, for people who have just started or like less than halfway through, the exam's coming up, but it's not a near-term thing, what would be your top tips for them?
I'd start taking it seriously early would be my tip, and getting focused in on recalling information quite soon on too, because it's all very well being posed a question and then you being able to sort of look through some notes and then kind of put them into your words and things like that. But if you can actually do that without referring to notes, then I think the earlier the better that you can start doing that. I don't know what you think.
No, I agree. But I think certainly for the diploma, everybody knows that I was peer pressured into doing the diploma directly after the foundation by Simon and Penny.
Yes.
And actually, thank God, because first of all, there's no way I would have ever done it if I hadn't just done it. But also, we still had all of that foundation knowledge. We all scored really highly on the foundation exam, and that was all still really clear in our minds. So things like spectrums, crystal systems, causes of color, not the crazy diploma causes of color, just the groundwork, having that really clear in your mind, making sure it's really solidified before you start trying to add on Sorry, I've been so sick for like years. That I think that's my tip, is to make sure you have all of that foundation knowledge ready to go and really clear in your brain before you start trying to layer on these really complex topics, because it's learnable. And it's, as Simon says, it's not just that you're learning things off by rote. You have to really understand them. And things are much easier to understand if you have that foundation based knowledge. But also, as I say, like, to me, it was much more important to pay attention in class, to show up every day, to do the reading so that you understand things, but it doesn't feel like work. I never wanted to burn myself out on it. So keeping that kind of, finding ways to keep the curiosity and the fun of it alive, I think is really important, because it is a long slog and the hard work comes in later.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even just having the summer off between the foundation and the diploma, a lot of stuff kind of just vanished from my mind. So, you can't have this deep rooted understanding of absolutely everything and expect to remember the RI of tourmaline and the birefringence of tourmaline forever. Some of these things you are just going to know for the exam, and you've sort of crammed them into your head, and they will fall out gradually. And you have to account for that. Because we came back after the summer, and I was like, I don't think I know anything anymore. And
Did you do much revision over the breaks?
No, I went on holiday and sort of like, thank God that I didn't have to sort of think about it 24/7 all the time, because that's kind of what I was doing.
Yeah. So Simon, as he said, was kind of exam prep from day one. I would say things really changed for me a month out. So we're a month out from the exam. Simon, what were you glad that you had already accomplished at this point?
I guess I had at that point more or less put all of the notes that we had and collated any other additional notes and any other things into one place. So when I was coming up to the last few weeks before the exam, I was sort of not looking at the course notes and not looking at any sort of other things, only really looking at things that I'd personally written out myself and added bits to, and then I was going through and reading them and then adding bits on top of that and things that I remembered. So I kind of did the course notes in my own words and then sort of went through and did the whole thing again off my own course notes.
And what was your key focus at this stage? What were you really trying to learn?
I guess trying to sort of, it wasn't until maybe a week or two before the exam that I sort of understood how the refractometer works, or I could draw the refractometer. I was kind of like just sort of, oh, well, that's something I can do, but I don't really get the ins and outs of it. Or the polariscope and how polarized light works. That was another thing that I kind of didn't really cotton onto until quite late, I think, really sort of understanding it, because my approach was definitely that understanding it would help me be able to recall it. And some of it I was like really, really late. And I think I know this. I think I could answer it, but I don't really know why.
Mm-hmm. No, I was exactly the same. I was actually just saying to my boss the other day, I had this memory. It was so vivid. Our exam was in the summer, so the month running up to it was like May, June, beautiful weather. And my boyfriend is the head brewer at a brewery in Hackney. So every Friday after work, I used to go to his brewery, and all of his like mates would be there having drinks, because we all drink for free there. And so in the run up to the exam for these 4 Fridays, I would draw all of the instruments and how they worked, and then I would explain them to people as they were having their drinks. And that was like the price you had to pay to drink at Jake's brewery in that month.
Listening to you describe how gem testing instruments work.
But it was so helpful. And I think also a month before the exam, I think that was when I was sinking my teeth into like the nitty gritty, the memorization. I've heard about my flashcards all the time. So to and from work, every time I was standing still anywhere, I was doing my flashcards on Quizlet, because if you try and memorize stuff too early, as you say, Simon, it falls out of your head. So month out, super focused on past papers. I was doing endless past papers, and I would actually so I'd do the paper, and then I would individually put all of my answers into ChatGPT, and it would grade me. And it ended up, it was really, really helpful. I wasn't focused on the practical at all, much to my chagrin later on. We'll get to that. But so flashcards, ChatGPT, and then teaching people. I would I started teaching people stuff. So the concepts that I felt were really kind of quite fuzzy, I zeroed in on at this point. And I also was making sure that I was going through chapter by chapter. So I went through chapter by chapter, made a note of everything that I understood, everything that I didn't, and the stuff that I knew that I was a little shaky on, I would really zero in on. But the past papers are a huge resource.
I've never been much of a flashcarder. I don't really know what they are or how they work. I sort of did them because I was expected to do them. But I just found them the other day, and there's piles of like coloured bits of card.
I just found a bunch of them here.
And I was like, but these aren't really doing anything for me. Yeah, I've got like piles of them, and I never really actually looked at them. I think the process of actually just doing them was quite useful rather than actually going over and looking at them. And then
the way that I like to use them. Oh, go on.
No, go on. So the other thing that I did was record little snippets of information. So sort of record flashcards for myself, and then listen to like a 40-second reason why, like heating corundum and in the environments you have to heat it in, and at the melting point of corundum and how hot you have to make it. And there'd be like 40-second clips, and I just sort of listened to them on repeat, or all the chemical compositions and things. I'd be like, spinel, and then give myself a little gap, and then say what the chemical composition of spinel was, and see if I could answer it before I.
So that's basically an audio flashcard.
It was more or less, yeah. And I kind of think that sort of worked for me a bit better. You need to try and figure out what sort of learner you are, don't you? And there's tests you can do online to tell you that. I don't know how accurate they are. I tried to do a couple and it didn't really tell me much.
My flashcard, for example, so this says UV vis NIR spectroscope, and then I make a little note of how many bullet points it has. And so I test myself, can I not only describe what this is, but can I explain how it works in the number of bullet points that Gem A would expect me to?
And with things, I suppose with things like that, I'm still not great on like the lab equipment stuff.
I revised it that morning, and then there was a question on it. I was like,
and
yes.
It's difficult to distinguish which ones are which. I guess some of them are sort of fairly plain. They tell you sort of quite simply because like the Raman spectrometer works in a specific way, so you can kind of figure out why that is, the scattering and the rebounding of light or whatever. And the XRF is distinguishing them and figuring out what they're actually best for is something that I found quite difficult, and sort of something I still don't really remember. I think as a group
we were pretty weak on that and remain pretty weak on that.
I guess the good thing about that is generally paper 2 has a question about lab testing equipment. And if you're sort of bang on that, and the same with the geology stuff as well, if you're like right on top of that, then there may be the questions that you pick, because in paper 2 you've got, was it 6?
Yeah, you have
sections,
6 options.
And you only have to do 4 of them. So 2 of them you can look at and just be like,
and one of them is just like a rapid
that.
fire. Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't do the rapid fire one, did you?
No, but we'll touch on that in a minute, Simon.
Okay,
I'm rushing the process.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
So before we move on, what were your secret weapons a month out, and what, if anything, do you wish you'd done differently?
I don't really know. I don't think I would have been able to do anything differently as such. If I was doing it again, I'd probably just go through the same process of sitting there reading, rewriting stuff and going over it again and again and again. The second time you learn something, I feel like you remember it better. So if you can repeat everything at least once, then I think when you come back to something the second time, it kind of goes, your brain goes, oh, hello, we sort of know about that. Let's embed it a bit further into the mind.
Yeah. I think I spent a lot of time trying to memorize geological definitions, and I think that was probably a waste of time. I think I probably could have, like all this,
trying to remember the difference between the ultramafic and mafic stones. And
what a load of bullshit that was. But we got very lucky on our test.
Any geologists out there listening, like...
I spent a lot of time doing that I should have spent doing practical, let's be honest.
Right, okay. Because actually, like, I wish I kind of knew more about geology, and I would sort of like to explore that a bit more. In
theory, I'm quite interested in it, but then it gets to it, and I'm like, fuck this, man.
That sounds fucking stressful, doesn't it? It would be cool to sort of go to, and look at a cliff and be like, oh, all right, I can see this is from this period, and I can see where this layer of rock has come in and why it's doing this. And I mean, I think that's super, super cool if you can do that. But I don't think it's something I want to sort of pursue any further, because my head would probably explode.
So speaking of exploding heads, a week out, how were you feeling at this stage?
Pretty stressed. Yeah,
Yeah, same.
pretty stressed. And the weather was like mad hot too when we were doing
Yeah,
it.
it was
And
very hot.
I decided to sit outside in the beating sun and and revise just so I could get a bit of daylight. Yeah. The one thing that Craig said, which was quite good, was that when you're revising, give yourself little mini breaks and just do it for a certain amount of times. So give yourself 20 minutes if you like, and then have 10 minutes off of, even if you just wander around, if you sort of go and make a drink or just look at your phone for a few minutes. Don't sort of try and do 4 hours solid of revision, because the stuff that you learned 3 hours ago is probably going to have drifted away by the time you're 4 hours in. Little and
Exhaustion
often, I think
real.
is what he said.
He did. I developed this system, which was awesome. So I did not take any time off of work to study, but what I did have was an incredibly supportive partner. So about a month out, I just said to Jake, I'm not doing any housework. I'm not doing any cooking. I'm not doing any cleaning. For the next month, I'm doing work and I'm doing Gemmology, and that's all that I can do. And he was like, great. So I would come home from work, shut the door. On the weekends, I would shut the door and I would literally be revising all day Saturday, all day Sunday. But I would use the Pomodoro technique. So every time I had a little break, I would watch revision TikTok. So there's all these people at the same time in June studying for finals, or they're studying for the bar exam in California. And it was like, spend a day with me while I study for the bar. Spend a day with me while I do an all-nighter. And so I would watch revision TikTok and then revise, and then watch revision TikTok and then revise.
And what's revision TikTok? Is it like people's methods of revision, basically?
Yeah. So it's either their methods of revision, or it's like, here's how I structure my day when I'm revising, or it's like, I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
So when you say that Jake was sort of holding down the fort, my wife was more or less doing the same thing. And like, we'd have a day off and on a Sunday or something, and she'd be like, "Oh, should we do this?" And I'm like,
Nope.
Like, we can do this, but we're going to have to do it like in the afternoon, and I'm going to need to put in at least 4 or 5 hours of revision before I can allow myself to do anything like that. And she'd be like, "Okay, yeah, no, that's cool." Like, again, like you say, completely amazing. It's sort of running the ship, as it were, while I was,
it really is a team effort.
Being pretty absent. Yeah.
I remember when I first signed up, for my foundation, I was really umming and ahhing about it. It's a lot of money. I wasn't trying to retrain or anything. It was just something I really was into. And I said to Jake, I think I want to do this. And he said, I 100% support you. And in the time that you're learning to be a gemologist, I'm going to be the most supportive boyfriend that has ever lived. And he truly, truly was. And as crazy as the foundation exam studying was, this was like a whole different level. It'd be interesting to get his perspective on it at some point. But he now knows a lot about gemmology because he had to be so involved in helping me learn. So we like to have little gemmology chats.
Another nice thing that Victoria did was so she'd say, "Okay, yeah, that's fine. You can go and revise, but when it gets to this time, I'm going to sort of beckon you and be like, Simon, it's time to stop." Because, like, me being how I am, I probably wouldn't have done. So if she was away with work or something, I would literally sit there all day, all night, and not give myself any time off. And so she was really good at telling me when to stop, and because you can so easily sort of burn out and do too much actually as well. Totally. So that's something to consider.
Shout out to all our supportive partners.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know if I certainly wouldn't have managed it if she wasn't so great.
Did you take time off work to study, Simon?
Yeah, I had like 5 days off before. And
oh, wow.
Those 5 days were more or less morning till literally bedtime that I spent.
And what kind of stuff were you doing? So what was your approach?
Same thing I was doing, just reading through my own notes and rewriting the Bible.
Did you take many practice papers?
Yeah, actually loads.
I would say that's the number one. They're such an amazing resource.
Yeah,
definitely.
So early doors,
all on the website.
I was allowing myself, so I was printing them off, and then early doors, I was kind of, if I didn't know something, then I was allowing myself to flick through some notes, because there's no point in spending 20 minutes answering a question wrong, because you can memorize wrong things. You don't want to be doing that. So if I was like, I actually don't know that, it's best that I check this so that I can then go, okay, right, cool, put that away and then write it, because the process of answering the question is going to help you memorize it. So making sure you don't memorize things that are wrong is important. But then I guess getting closer to the exam, you have to sort of try and, you know, fly on your own and get rid of that and sort of move that all aside. Even if you don't know something, you need to try and see how you can get, and then obviously you go back and sort of self mark or get ChatGPT to do it for you, I guess.
Exactly. And again, like a week out, so I was doing practice papers and I was doing flashcards, and this is when I really started focusing on like kind of the little bitty stuff that other people might miss or little marks that other people might leave. So the things like it's in a Sri Lankan emerald or a Sri Lankan emerald, in a Sri Lankan sapphire, what are 3 inclusions that you might find? And I did that for every locality. I did it for every gemstone locality. Like where are 3 places that we can find this in the world? So consolidating, like most of the knowledge was there. It was just the little bits, diamonds, diamond colors. Like if you do HPHT, what colors are you going to get depending on what elements are present in that diamond, which ended up paying dividends because we had that question.
Yeah, we did.
So the little things like that most people leave on the ground, pick them up.
Yeah, so there's always going to be some things that you kind of feel more comfortable with or are more interested in. I guess once you feel comfortable with something, tip that maybe I would say is don't feel super comfortable on something and then just cross your fingers and hope it comes up and you think, oh, well, if this section comes up, I think I can get more or less 20 marks out of 20 because I'm really, really super confident on this. Because if that doesn't come up, then you're in trouble. And that's the thing. You need to have a good understanding of everything. And it's frustrating when you get to the end of it and you're like, whoa, I wish this had come up because I know loads about that. I could have gotten loads more marks because this thing I know loads about didn't come up in the exam. You need to kind of be feeling fairly confident with most of it, I think.
And even stuff that you're not confident on, if you have a working understanding of something, it opens up new avenues. So we are going to talk now about the first exam. This is the theory exam, the day of. So what were your priorities in the morning when you woke up on that day? How are you feeling? What was your approach to the day?
My priority was making sure I have a very unreliable train.
And there were problems on the line that day. I remember I almost killed someone. I was like, I'm getting on this fucking train. I'm sorry.
So our first exam day was the Tuesday and our second exam day was the Thursday. On the Wednesday, virtually none of the trains went anywhere. And I don't know how I'd have gotten to the exam. If the exam had been on the Wednesday, I wouldn't have made it there. And I don't know what the hell I'd have done. It was so lucky because my trains have a real habit of being quite shit. So I got up like mega, mega early and I got a train like 2 trains before I needed to. Made sure I was something else. So during the mock exams, I used to get this really hot ear. Do you remember?
Yes, the hot ear.
Like my left ear was like fucking bright red. And I'm like, I can't stop my ear from overheating. And I'd be like, God. And like putting anything I could find that was metal against my ear to try and cool it down. Like these sorts of things, these sort of like stress triggers in you. So I bought, that forehead stuff that you can like rub on your head when it's like mentally and like cooling.
Like a Vicks vapor rub kind of thing.
Sort of, yeah. It's kind of like a stick that you rub on and it makes your head cold. So I bought one of them and sort of like rubbed it all over my head and my ears and stuff, and just so I could sort of try and make my head a bit cooler. And because any sort of outside noise or stresses you want to try and avoid, made sure I had painkillers, enough water, things like that, because I'm prone to a stress headache or a red hot ear.
I am not, but I do have to eat a high protein breakfast. So the days of the exam, I just said to myself, I'd just taken a huge pay cut and I was like, I don't care. I'm just going to eat Leon all day, every day. So I got up early, got to Farringdon, got a Leon, ate half of it, threw the rest away. And I brought in a huge thing of water and 2 coffees. So I had to pee a lot through the exam, but that was okay because I'm a fast writer.
Yeah, you did. I think you got up twice in one of the exams and then maybe twice in another one too.
Yeah. So both days I peed
where
like,
are you going? Are you mad?
I really had to pee. Yeah. But I knew, especially in the theory, and we'll talk a little bit about how we felt at the time, but I knew that I was crushing it. I knew I was crushing it. So I was like, I'm just going to pee. I'm fine. So what kind of stationery did you bring? I actually love them, but they've all broken. I found out they're actually the trendiest pens amongst the children these days, but they are erasable pens with a super fine point and an animal on the top.
Yeah.
So I had a Shiba Inu, I had a panda, and I had another. Oh, is that one? No. And I had another animal.
That was a Craig tip, wasn't it? Getting a friction pen.
Erasable pen.
And that's such a good tip, because sometimes you might draw, even in the practical on the spectrum thing, you might draw the spectrum and be like, shit, I've done it wrong. And then you've only got that box to do it. So anything you can rub out. And then, like in the theory exam, there were a few things after I went through and sort of checked what I'd written. I was like, I've sort of not worded that correctly, or you can't read that because I've been writing so fast. And I was like, if an examiner comes through and tries to read that, they're not going to have any idea what that word says. So I'd cross it out and sort of write it so that it was legible, because my handwriting at speed looks a fucking mess. So it's that erasable pen probably picked me up a couple of other marks, because they wouldn't have had a blindest idea what I was talking about or what I'd actually written.
And so that's the way that day works
is critical.
Critical. So you kind of show up in the morning. It's not super early, is it? Or is it? Was it like 9?
Did it start at 9? So one other thing that I panicked about after we'd submitted our papers, because you know those erasable pens, you can use them when you're sewing as well, and you can draw and close with them. And so rather than using chalk, which on some materials is quite hard to get off, you can use these erasable pens. So I use them a bit when I'm making clothes. And in order to get the pen off, you iron it. So heat actually gets rid of them too.
Oh, so were you worried about it going to a hot warehouse?
I spent 2 months panicking that
that is such an anxiety response, Simon.
They might come to my exam paper and they'd literally just be like blank lines, because the sheet had gotten so hot and like the ink had sort of like burnt away. And I was like, what the fuck am I going to do if they look at my paper and all of the bloody ink's just sort of like heated itself away? Honestly, my mind went nuts for the 2 months we were
we'll talk
waiting.
about that in a little bit, because it is real. And they warned us about it as we left. So anyway, always take pens, always take extra pens. You get there early in the morning. Everybody kind of stands outside.
Batteries and bulbs too.
Well, that's tomorrow. We're still on the theory.
Sorry.
Gosh.
Yeah, just
structure,
pens,
Simon.
pens,
Structure.
Pens.
You stand outside, you kind of chat to people. All of the online distance learners will have already done their practical. I was so jealous that they were just done.
Oh, did they? They do it at the end of their lab week thing.
Yes, and then they take the theory.
Right, okay.
So you go in. Where does it take place? It takes place in Gem A, just in that little room at the back.
I don't know if the new one will, because there's so many on the course. Maybe they won't have room for them. They might do it.
There were only 4 of us in that, plus all the online distance. But it was like, it's very well organized. There, you can pee whenever you need to. Like, everybody's really friendly. It wasn't scary. It wasn't hot. When we took our foundation, it was so hot. But in this one, it was nice and air conditioned. What was the experience of taking the exam like for you, Simon?
Like, it would be nice if I could say it was all pleasant and roses, but like, I don't actually really remember, because like, it's just sort of a stress memory, and I've kind of put it out of my mind, I suppose. But I kind of remember sitting there and being like, okay, I need to sort of calm down. I need to settle. I need to get this stuff on my head to cool me down.
And you have time to read the paper. And so
you do. I think they specifically give you time to read the paper, don't they?
So you flick through it, you can kind of start planning your answers, which when they say it in the class, you're like, there's no way I'm going to be way too stressed to do this. But I remember so vividly, I was anxious, but I felt prepared, which was good. And then I flipped through the first paper and I was like, I'm fine. I'm going to kill this. And once you know that, you can just rest and kind of go into it. And it's a physical exercise. It is 3 solid hours of writing. Then you get a coffee. Then it's 3 solid hours of writing. So it is like our hands were hurting. We were tired. But I remember everyone came out of it feeling pretty calm. I think we got lucky with our paper, though.
I came out of paper 1 quite stressed. I didn't like it.
Did you?
No, it was quite a bad one for me, actually. I
loved it.
My God, I'm worried about this.
You're always worried about everything, though.
It's true. But then paper 2, I was kind of like, that was like right in my wheelhouse. So I was kind of happy about that one. And I think that's probably what helped. Yeah.
And paper 2, again, you can kind of pick, you choose your own adventure. And so as Simon says, kind of even things that you don't 100% understand, having a working knowledge of it opens up avenues. So I was the only one that didn't do the kind of rapid fire questions. Instead, I had just revised lab testing equipment thing, and there was a question about that I was actually much more comfortable answering in detail. And so I picked that one and felt confident about it, and definitely wouldn't have chosen it literally the day before.
So the quick fire one's quite interesting because on the surface of it, it looks like quite a good choice because if it's like you either know it or you don't. But then if there's 4 or 5 questions that you don't know, you're already down to 75% as your maximum out of
Well,
the
and that
20.
was my strategy. I looked at it and I thought, I know enough about enough that I can talk my way around stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But if
you
I
can
don't
pick point
know
marks up.
if I don't know every single one of those answers, I'm not going for that one.
Yeah,
because I know that I know enough about other things.
And also you have to put an answer as well. That's one of the stipulations with the quickfire one. Every single question needs to be answered. I don't know what happens if you don't answer one. Like, just chuck the paper in. If you chuck the paper in the bin, you've only answered 19 out of the 20 quickfire questions. So you're damned. That's it. You're done. Because it literally says you have to put an answer for every one. So yeah, just be wary of that because I wouldn't like to find out what happens if you don't.
And also draw. I came out and I was saying to Simon, like I was drawing my little heart out, especially on paper 2. I was like, I was drawing all kinds of shit. And this is where having beers and drawing stuff and explaining them to your boyfriend's friends really comes in handy because it's in your brain already. So you're just I was drawing like the VFF. I was doing the diagrams. The Polariscope came up. Felt pretty
they're all
good
really good diagrams to get your head around. Yeah, diagrams are actually really good. It's labeled diagrams. Make sure you label everything though properly.
Yeah. How did you feel after the exam? So it's the end of a long day.
I guess at the end of the first exam, I did feel a fair bit of relief, and that was, I guess, the first feeling that I had. And then, yeah, I just knew I had Wednesday to sort of go over some practical stuff and try and sort of do a few practice testings. But yeah, I guess relief, and that certainly gave way to anxiety-ridden. But the relief was the immediate thought. What about you?
Same. I mean, I knew that it had gone really well. You also get out and like everyone's working still. So it's about 4 p.m. I got the bus home. It was a beautiful sunny day. And I went to the co-op next to my house and I got a bottle of pink sparkling wine and drank it in the park waiting for my boyfriend to get home. Because I knew that it had gone so well. And then Wednesday, I just crashed, like did not do anything. That was a mistake.
So
should have done some fucking practical.
Our class group chat was quite useful on that Wednesday because we was popping off a little bit that day, and there were a couple of things
spiraling about really niche topics, and I was like, just so you guys know, this probably isn't going to come up.
There were a couple of things that I did on that Wednesday that I was like, wow, I'm really pretty glad I did that.
Like what?
I don't actually remember now, but there was it was like, the test, the set that they give you, the diploma set that they give you. And I just tested them just to see if there was any sort of glaringly obvious things that I needed to make sure I remembered. And I just remember there being one, and I don't know what it was. But like, yeah, any stones that you have knocking about that you can do a little test on, I would recommend doing that because those things are pretty... They're like the archetypal versions of themselves. So if you look at them, like the crackled quartz one is like so crackled quartz, and like your synthetics that are in there, they're really good for just showing you the most obvious thing. I was just looking at a bit of a stone that my mum sent me, and I got it on the Polariscope, and it's like the writhing snakes on it are like so blatantly obvious, and those sorts of things. So yeah, don't dismiss your that little set of stones that they give you because it's worth going through and testing them because yeah, they're the archetypes.
Definitely. So day 2, this is the practical, a little bit different because your equipment matters so much in this one. So Simon, what were kind of your priorities in the morning and what were you double checking?
So in the foundation exam, the bulb of my maglite actually gave out, and that was a cause of a bit of stress. So I made sure I had spare bulbs. I made sure I had lots of batteries. Obviously you change all the batteries for everything and double check everything, do a bit of a health check on all of your equipment before you go in. So yeah, make sure you change all of the batteries and they've got fresh batteries in them because your flat lamp...
I did that and mine still went out my backlight.
No way.
It was so fucked, and it won't keep a charge this day.
The refractometer lamp. Yeah, so during the practical, mine was on the blink and it was kind of flashing, and it's because it's held in with a bit of bloody cardboard with a glue gun holding it in place.
Not helpful.
The glue's fucking given up. So I've actually since bought a new refractometer lamp because my first one was shit. And I had to actually ask to borrow one during the practical exam because my refractometer lamp was blinking at me, and that was stressing me out a lot.
Did get a conoscope though, so I'd spent the entire course borrowing Simon's conoscope, but I did get my own for the exam.
Yeah, that was probably quite a good idea.
And there's kit that you can borrow, but I would say it's more psychological. When your equipment goes out, it feels a bit like you're cursed that day.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a doomsayer.
Yeah, you don't need that stress.
No.
So what was the room like, Simon? What's your memory of getting set up? Were you stressed?
I quite like it down there. There's the Bruton room that we were in, wasn't it?
Yeah, I like it too.
And it's sort of like a bit sort of, traditional. There's nothing
dark
sort of
academia.
Yeah, exactly. It's not got any sort of fluorescent lights. There's no fluorescent lights on. Everything seems a bit sort of, like you could be taking the exam in like Victorian England or something. There's something quite nice about that. It's nice and dark. You can kind of create your own. And something else I would say, although I didn't listen to it myself, is you have a whole desk. Right. So half of my desk was like my microscope, and you also have 2 chairs. So make use of both chairs, because
spread out, keep
set the
yourself
microscope
calm,
up
keep
in
yourself
front of
organized.
Set the microscope up in front of one chair, and then if you need to use the microscope, get out of the chair you're in and get in the other one, rather than pissing about moving chairs and trying to move furniture or sliding the microscope into place. Have that as a separate thing. And kind of arrange things on the desk as best you can. You're always going to put something down and be like, where the bloody hell's the stone tongs? Or where is the conoscope or whatever? You're always going to lose shit. But trying to keep things as sort of in their own place or as orderly as possible. Because even your refractometer can kind of sit off to the side, and you can position yourself in a different place. So that you're not sliding things around, I would say, is a good tip.
Another thing I would say is the invigilators really are on your side, which I didn't expect in the way that I felt like so emotionally cared for by these women. They keep track of the stones that you've got. They keep track of what you've had. When I was done, they congratulated me.
They sort of tell you to give up on a stone as well if you've had it for ages too. Because
exactly. So they are there to help you and keep you on track. So you don't have to worry about anything except the paper in front of you, which was actually, I found really, really nice. And they give you some advice when you leave the room, which we'll talk about in a little bit. What was the experience of taking the exam like for you, Simon? I would say we had the same set. It was a pretty fucked up set.
Yeah, it was. So like probably the first stone that I had a bit of a stress with, and so is it you have like 12 minutes a stone?
Yes.
Roughly is what they suggest that you should give yourself. I had a little clock
that was so helpful. Although it was this guy. But I gave myself 10 minutes a stone and then ended up with loads of time at the end.
Okay.
Which was not helpful.
I think Craig was like, if you work out that you can you give yourself a few minutes for each sort of RI, a few minutes for each, the A, B and C section. And then if you if you start in D, you should be working on roughly 12 minutes a stone. Some stones you're going to do quicker. Some stones are going to take you a bit longer. I think my first stone, I took about 20 something minutes to do.
Did you?
And it was the pink tourmaline.
Yes. I struggled with that one too. And I was like, just let it be a tourmaline. Just let it be a tourmaline. I don't know why it was kind of morganite colored, but I was like, this is the RI for tourmaline. This is a tourmaline.
Yeah, there was something, I can't remember why, but it was definitely stressing me out, that one. And yeah, I guess, so when we did all the practicals, I kind of had time left over in most of them. And when I was doing practical practice sets at home, a few occasions I actually didn't write an answer. That experience was really critical, because I flicked it. Cause when I was doing it at home, I was going like, all right, okay, I'm done. I've done all the stones, and then I'd go back through and kind of mark it and make sure I got it right, and be like, shit, I haven't actually put an answer for this. And doing that and fucking that up was like, oh my God, this is a real thing that you could do, because Craig said he didn't put an answer for one of his, right? So giving yourself time to just sort of flick through and make sure you have actually put the answer, because there's no point in doing all the work without putting that down, because, yeah.
Totally. I will hold my hands up and say I fully crashed out on the practical in a way that this is where preparation comes in handy so much. I fully crashed out, and I had to pull myself back from it in this like white knuckled way, where we had a tourmaline, we had a citrine, we had a hessonite, not a hessonite, it was a spessartine or a hessonite.
Can't remember.
But there were a few where I was like, I'm like 70% sure, and then would start doubting myself. And I had to really be like, you need to stop. Like, just let these things be what they are. I did get a stone wrong, and I knew that I'd gotten it wrong, and I this is such a Lucinda thing to do. I just doubled down on it, much to my chagrin. But it's one of these things where like you have the day that you're going to have, right? And if you just have to trust that you are a good enough gemmologist that you're mostly right.
And the truth is, you do get a couple of lifelines, so you can get a stone wrong, and you can still pass. Like, so don't stress so much that you're focused on one stone and you can't get an identification for it, that it prevents you from putting an answer for all the rest of them, because that can be a big problem. You spend 30 minutes on a stone, then you've spent far too long. Just give up. Just be like...
And even if you're doubting yourself on a few, like, odds are, you're a good enough gemmologist that you're right. Like, you just have to trust yourself on it. And I was after the exam, I was very anti talking about the results.
Yes,
and Simon was like, no, I think we need to go over them.
No,
and I'm
I wasn't.
glad that we did.
I was fully respectful of but it was Miranda that kept saying, like, Miranda was like, I need to know what you need to know what you put. She was like, there was a this, there was a this, there was a this, there was a this, and I was like, okay, yeah, I sort of put the same thing for all of them, and you were like, no, don't tell me, I don't want to hear. And actually, it turns out you were quite glad when we went over them.
Because what happens, basically, you go off a cliff, right? So you do this thing, you know that you can get 2 wrong, you hand in your exam, you've had the day that you've had, and you can just sit, even the ones that you're like 90% sure about, there's still that little bit of doubt.
100%.
The invigilators congratulate you, they tell you not to stress about it too much, to try not to, but of course you are. And so the first thing we did was go to the pub, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
And the minute I knew that I had gotten one wrong, and the minute my fear was that I had gotten more than one wrong. And so the minute Simon and Miranda were like, this is what we got, and I was like, that's exactly what I was expecting, and now I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, because either we've all failed, or
exactly,
which the chances are that's probably not going to be the case if we've all got the same conclusion.
Yeah, and like it sucks to know that you fucked it on one, but I would rather fuck it on one and pass and know and not stress about it than I'm so as anti as I was, I'm actually glad that we all got together and we chatted about it afterwards. What was it like for you when it was just all over, Simon?
I mean, yeah, like I was so glad that it was over, and I'm just constantly thinking, I don't think I can put myself through that again. I don't like, I have to have passed, because like the stress was unreal.
I still have dreams about it. I still have dreams that we have to do it again.
And the few months after waiting for the results were actually hell. Like, there were days when I was like, please, God, just tell me what happened. And we've spoken about the days where the test results come through before, and how we just sort of like broke down into tears.
Yeah, everybody was crying. The relief, just because I just didn't think that I could do it again. It's really hard to explain, because the day itself was actually fine. I just don't think I could do it again.
No,
I still have stress dreams about it. And one of the great torture mechanisms of it is you can get something right and still not have done enough.
Yeah.
Not gone into enough detail, missed out key points. So I remember talking to Simon about, like, I just know that I didn't put in the VFF, everything goes through like a filtery thing. And I hadn't mentioned the filter, and I had all the temperatures and all the inputs correct, but I didn't mention the fucking grate or whatever.
And I was
like, am I going to fail this exam?
Yeah, that is a mark. Yeah, exactly. Or like not writing optically anisotropic, or not writing those specific things, because there's marks for everything, and they're, as much as you can pick up marks elsewhere or get like a lot of marks for noticing inclusions and things, if you actually don't write one of the important things, then you're in trouble, because you're not going to get that mark. So make sure you do the tests that are required.
And so how did you have any coping strategies, or was it just a white knuckle through the waiting period?
No, like, honestly, I wasn't sleeping. Towards the end, when I thought they were imminent, I was really struggling to sort of sleep and keep myself normal. Yeah, it was brutal waiting for them to come through. I wonder if it's going to be a little bit quicker now with the changes that have happened, and like, I don't know. But do your best, and if you want to reach out to anybody for some emotional support, then we're here for you.
Please do. Yes, we are here. We understand it. It is intolerable, but once it's over, it's interesting. It felt like this huge anchor and this huge part of my identity that then just didn't exist. and I had all of this time, and I had this new career, and it all happened so fast that I sometimes look up and I'm like, 2 years ago, I didn't even know what an FGA was. And now I am one. And it's been really a strange and exciting journey.
But then we started doing this, which has cemented all the knowledge.
That's
and
true.
Actually,
and that's taken all my time up again. So really, I'm fine.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm literally studying just as much as I was when we were studying for the fucking exams.
That's how you know we really love this shit.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm not spending any less time learning or expanding my knowledge in gemmology now because of us doing this, and I'm really grateful for that. Actually, it's cool.
Same. Any last words of wisdom or advice for people about to head in there?
Don't stress. Try not to stress as much as possible. Keep a calm head, and make sure your forehead's cool.
I would second the cool forehead. I would also say take a lot of water. And also try and enjoy it. Like, we are doing this because we love it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be putting ourselves through this. So I think one thing that really got me through was just like, let that wash over you. Like, and understand so much about something that is so cool, and never lose sight of that.
100% here.
Great. Well, guys, we will be back next week with a very exciting interview. So stay tuned. We're also going to be looking at the refractometer in the coming weeks. Everybody's favorite. Simon now understands how it works, so that's great.
And I think I can still draw it too. So maybe we'll show you that.
In the meantime, everybody preparing for their exams, best of luck. We are here if you need us. And anything else, Simon?
Nothing else. Just good luck to everybody. And if we want to message with any queries, then please feel free to. We'll do our best to answer you.
Yes. All right. Have a good week, everybody. Happy studying.
Adios.
Bye.